Okay, good morning. My name's Connie Shipley, and I'm with Capturing Your Life Stories. Now, you may wonder, how did I get into the business of going out and trying to save everybody's life stories for their families? Well, of course, my family, we lost the history of my great-grandfather, who was one of the first architects in Portland. He was, I'd like to say, the first person to design spec houses in Portland. Prior to that, everybody would say, I'm going to hire an architect. He would design it, and then they would build it. But for the 1905 Lewis and Clark exposition, he was asked to design a bunch of houses up on Willamette Heights, and the city of Portland actually even put in a cable car to take people up there. The first street of dreams in Portland. So unfortunately, all of his papers were lost, and the only thing we have are the drawings from one of his contractor construction people. So I'm a second family member, my grandfather, was dominating the family stories, and I realized he was trying to make sure we remembered him when he died. He kept telling us his childhood stories over and over again. So I found out about oral histories, and I went and did that with my grandfather. And when I saw how happy he was, how he didn't dominate the dinners anymore, and we passed it out to all of the family, I knew that these stories were more for the person doing it as well as for the families receiving the gift of the stories. So it just struck something in my soul, and I've been doing it ever since. I was able to take some classes at Portland State that taught me how to do it. And so now I want to encourage other people to find out how to do this. So why would this matter to you? You may know some stories in your family, maybe not your own, but even individuals who think, oh, my life wasn't that interesting, after they start talking about it and talk about how things in their youth affected them in their adult life, it all becomes fascinating and unique. And you'll get to better understand yourself, and you'll be able to gather in a broader view of what you've created in your life if you take the time to reflect on it. Now, how much energy and time do you want to devote to this? There's a simple thing known as a legacy letter, where you can just do a manuscript of a few pages where you write to your family what you feel is important, what values do you find to be most important, what were the biggest experiences, just a page or two. And this could be the greatest treasure that you leave them when you pass. People, sometimes they write a short letter and then they attach their favorite recipes. You know, you could make it unique for yourself. Another type of book is to do just a major life event. I myself did one of when I was in South America when I was 10 years old, 20 months. But I have it down, and I can tell you it's so nice that I don't have to kind of keep refreshing my brain about what happened because it's written down now. You could take a broad overview of your life, and you could make it just about you and not talk about the other people so much, just what happened to you, and that could be shorter. Or you could also make a really in-depth 5-generation book, do a genealogy, and really have a big product. Now, all of these take different amount of time and energy, so the first thing you want to do is think about how much time and energy do I want to do it, because once you start something, you want to finish it, so put some thought into it at the beginning. So you brainstorm about ideas that you could write about. So you could write about hobbies, your parents' childhood, different homes you lived in, different trips. I know a lady who's doing one just on the cruises she took. That's the whole topic. So you can come up with all these different ideas, and then you decide how much time would it take and what do I want to cover, and then you can organize them into chapters. Then you have a skeleton to work on. So having that, you can better control your project. Not to say you have to do a chronological life story. I know some ladies that have just written a book, the inspirations they got from their mother's paintings. I think Geography and Me could be fun because I've traveled a lot. You could do just the history of your career, or recipes. Recipe books can have nice stories to go along with the recipes on why you have that particular recipe book in it. So there's different ways to go through the process after you know what you're going to do. You could do it privately. You could write it yourself or type it. You could use a software package. They have websites where they'll ask you questions and then you can respond to it. You could go to a community college where they have memoir classes, where you meet weekly and go home with some homework. Or you could hire someone like myself to interview you and do a lot of the work. So you can end up with different kinds of finished products. You could have a bound book. You could self-publish the book yourself on Amazon. You could have, like I said, an unbound book, just a manuscript or a legacy letter, video, family websites, or a unique project like a quilt. So it's something for you to think about, and I really encourage you to put some thought into what you want to create before you get started. So to help, I have come up with a workbook, and so I have it for the left-handed writer, where you can write notes on the left hand, and I have it for the right-handed writer so that you can write notes on the right hand and not have to fight the binding. And I go through these, I've summarized what I go through in the book on figure out what you want to create before you get started. And then in the second half, I have a lot of questions that will make you think about things you may want to include in your book from different parts of your life. And also I do include different ways that you might be able to share your life other than just saying your life story. So I hope you've found this some food for thought, that you may have some of those little stories in your mind, and if you want to talk with me further, I'd be glad to contact you.
Very nice.
Connie, how long does it take after we talk to you in the beginning till it's over? What is the usual time frame?
This is an interesting question because I used to say 6 months, and it depends on what we're creating. So if we're doing one event or we're doing your life briefly but not the other 5 generations, I would say 6 months or so. And I am working on one now that's gotten into being quite a large project, and so it's taking up to a year. But what we do is we talk about what we want to create and how much time. And so as the project is going along, I will let you know how we're doing on our original projections. And sometimes people have had hard experiences and they say, gee, do I have to tell everything? And I say, if you had a hard experience, I like to focus on the silver lining, the teaching that you got out of the experience rather than focusing on how bad it was. I try to keep it positive.
Good perspective.
Okay, thank you.